What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of 30 and 30. In today's video, we're going to talk about how often you should weigh yourself. So for many of us, we have a semi-friendly, unfriendly, love-hate relationship with the scale. For many of us, the scale can dictate our mood, and we have to know when we should and should not step on the scale. So for some people, standing on the scale is a habit that we do every single morning, which there is a time and a place, in my opinion, to weigh yourself every day. And that time would be during a contest prep. And so we're going to break into the reasons why I prefer that people weigh themselves daily in contest prep, and then we'll break off into the off season, kind of how I kind of picture people weighing themselves in their off season. So let's focus on contest prep for a minute. So for a lot of us, we've done in the past, at least myself up until this year, I weighed myself one day a week. Let's say I just picked a arbitrary day, let's say Thursday. I weighed myself every day on Thursday morning, and I checked my weight. Well, that may be good, in order to track progress from Thursday to Thursday. It was the same day every week at least. So there was, multiple factors, that might have been thrown out the window as far as like training and all that kind of stuff. One day out of the week just didn't really, in my opinion, do me enough good in order to make sure that I was making the progress that I needed to. Because as we all know, our weight fluctuates, especially throughout the day and obviously throughout the week. Although I did take it on a Thursday, let's say that night before I slept poorly. Let's say that night before, I ate late, or that night before, once again, I had a little bit more sodium than I should have, and my weight was up because of that, because I was holding on to a little bit more water. Well, then my Thursday weight would have been thrown off. So this past year, when I took over my own diet, and I started doing this for my clients as well, for those people who were in contest prep, I had them weigh themselves every single day. So instead of just one data point every single week, we had 7. Now, what that helped me do was not only to see new lows in the future, so like looking at my crystal ball to see if we were looking ahead for big drops, but it also helped me intake weekly average. So instead of just 1 point, I now had 7, but I had different ways of using it. So I had, obviously looking at the day-to-day, how our weight's fluctuating throughout the week. I had our average, and then I had the new lows. Now, granted, I really didn't look at the highs because that really doesn't apply to us right now in contest prep, because obviously the weight's going down and we're looking for trends along the way. So taking averages was huge for me, and actually not making as many changes as I needed to. Because if I saw my average was down or my low weight was down, then I wouldn't make a change. Obviously, most weeks, both of them were down, because as you drop, the average or the low weight is going to drop hand in hand. Sometimes they both did, other times they didn't. Now, the negative of taking your weight 7 days a week is obviously having to stand on the scale 7 days a week. For some people, it's overwhelming. They have a hate relationship with the scale. It dictates their mood, like I said earlier in the video, and it can be stressful to have to stand on the scale. Now, I will admit this. For those people who have a tough time sticking to their diets, I honestly feel like this method forces them to stick to their diet. Because if they have to stand on the scale every single day, when they're out the night before and they might be wanting to go over their macros for the day, and they're like, well, I do have to weigh in tomorrow. I do have to weigh in every day. So I should really be as precise as possible. So although it might add a little bit more stress, I feel like the good outweighs the bad, because it may force some people to stick to their diet, more than they actually would. So now let's talk about the off season. So my preferred method, obviously, for contest prep is 7 days a week, we're weighing ourselves. But now I'm transferring into my off season. How should I monitor my progress? Well, initially, I started weighing myself about 4 times a week. Maybe 5 times a week in the first couple of weeks after my shows, to see how my average weight was doing once again. Over time, now it's the new year. I competed last at the very beginning of November. I'm only weighing myself once a week now. Once then, I'm picking an arbitrary day, usually Thursdays, just so happens to be the way my training falls. Thursday is an off day for me. So I have 3 full days of training before that. My weight comes down, from taking an off day over the weekend. I get 3 solid days of training. Thursday is my usual day to weigh myself. I see, obviously what the scale says, but in the off season, it's going to be a lot more visually oriented. It's going to be how my training is going. So it's just taking one data point, and yes, taking that into consideration, when being in the off season. I don't necessarily need to stand on a scale every single day because, right now, my goals are changing. They're different. They're not weight loss oriented. They're not fat loss oriented. Excuse me. So we want to make sure that, yeah, my weight's not going crazy high or crazy low, but I don't need 7 points anymore. I don't need to stand on a scale every single day. There's a time and a place to stand on a scale every single day, and that was in contest prep, like I said before. So if you find yourself, in an off season, don't feel the need to weigh yourself every single day because, really, in my opinion, there's no point. Yes, we know our weight's going to fluctuate, and especially for you ladies who have your menstrual cycles, we know that weight fluctuates throughout the month, and it's hard to keep track, and that's why when you see these big spikes, from things like starting your menstrual cycle, or if you have a lot of sodium one day, that that's not fat gain, but when you see that number on the scale, it's gonna mess with your head. So that's why I would just recommend, especially everyone in their off season, that they only weigh themselves, once a week, just to keep yourself on track. And then it is just a nice reminder, to stand on a scale at least once, because then you see if your weight starts to creep up, like probably many of ours did over the holiday season, you'd be like, hey, you know what? It's really time to buckle down a little bit harder. I've been tracking a little bit looser lately, so maybe, I don't want to, track as loosely. I don't want that weight to creep up. So guys, that's how I recommend that where you weigh yourself, contest prep versus off season. Hopefully you guys will implement that into your new regiment. Tune in tomorrow for another video of 30 and 30. I'll see you then.